Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Eric.
And I'm Nelle. Welcome to our home in Baltimore. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Eric Somerville. I've spent the second third of my career in social impact and currently working on a project in affordable and workforce housing.
Hello, I'm Nelle Somerville, and I have an event firm here in Baltimore called Stonehill Hospitality.
So we are in Maryland, in Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland, in one of the mill villages, actually called Dickeyville.
It's a historic village, and I think it was established in 1772.
We have an old house problem. I guess over the past 5 years, we've moved, several times. We probably moved 5 times in the past 10 years. They've all been older homes. I think we first moved to Baltimore, and our home was like 1840, another mill village. Moved to a 1920s, like Italianate, stucco, terracotta condo building. It was great. And then we were really attracted to Dickeyville. And first home was built in 1809, and now we moved down the street, another old home here, just in a beautiful community that we love, and we love architecture and design, so it's suited us well.
And we literally moved 10 houses down the street in the same village. The neat part about how we found this home is we were friends with the people that owned the home. And Dickeyville is such a charming, unique part of Baltimore on the west side of the city. And our friends wanted to also find homes in the village. When our friends were listing this home, they gave us the listing and said, well, let us know if you have anybody that would be interested in the house. And it was in the middle of COVID. Eric said, babe, I think we should look at this house. We had just moved 2 years prior down the street, and actually, again, like the room that we're in, our friends Michael and Steve would host the coffee hours for the village, and we sat right in this space, and Eric said, babe, why don't you come down and see the house with fresh eyes as if it was going to be ours. This is a forever home. It was just it was very lucky that our friends gave us the listing first, because it would have been a bidding war. It was a really good fit for us.
So welcome to our sunroom. We end up spending the majority of our time here. It was a big space when we purchased the home, and we were just thinking about like, how do we create like the most, really warm space that could accommodate, friends and family when they have them over. You can see I think this room is a great example of our kind of like the meshing of both of our aesthetics. This is one of my favorites. This is actually Thai silk. And I spent some time just south of Bangkok, Thailand, in 2003. And so I first came in contact with Jim Thompson, who kind of revitalized the Thai silk trade. And Nelle and I spent a lot of time at antique shops, and we were out in, I think it was Culpeper, Virginia. And I randomly went up some dusty stairs to the second level of this antique shop. And I saw this piece, and what caught my eye is when I saw, the Jim Thompson signature. And I was like, oh, this is just amazing. And so, we love the color. It kind of takes me back to a really special time in my life. And actually, it was the first piece I've ever gotten framed. When Nelle and I met, I probably was graduating from posters on the wall. And so this was like one of my first framed pieces, which is really nice. So when we moved into the home, our friends had a massive vinyl collection. And so, this was white at the time. We recently had it painted, but every cube was almost filled with vinyl. And we do have some vinyl to talk about, but if you think about like who's Nelle and Eric, you can really get a sense by spending some time over here. We love to cook, and so from cookbooks you have everyone from Barefoot Contessa, Lee Brothers White Dog Cafe. For our friends in Philly, Michael Solomonov's proprietor of Zahab and many restaurants. I know Martha Stewart's here somewhere. So Ghetto Gastro, Black Power Kitchen is one of our new finds, which is kind of fun. We also, we like art. And so if you make your way through here, we've been to the 30 Americans exhibit, and this is a really great book. One of our good friends, and we have several friends who are artists here in Baltimore, many that you'll find in kind of the city of artists, and this is all about Baltimore artists. And a Baltimore artist that we're friends with, and I think the entire world probably knows her, but a dear friend, Amy Sherald. We knew Amy when we first moved to Baltimore in 2008, and the world knows Amy for her amazing paintings, as well as the portrait that she did of Michelle Obama that was in the portrait gallery. So when we can, we'll go to all of her exhibits and her openings. Went to the one in New York City, went to the one in London. I know there's one coming up in San Francisco. The vinyl, we do have some vinyl. I mean, everything from Dolly Parton to Frank Sinatra to Herbie Hancock to MF Doom to Fela Kuti to Wes Montgomery. I mean, you can name it, as well as opera. And so the majority of it was inherited. We inherited from Nelle's mother, who had a friend who had a huge collection. And so, I mean, these are just great pieces. You just grab anything, right? Here's B.B. King. As I mentioned, it's extremely kind of eclectic. I mean, they're all in alphabetical order. The Drifters. These are names, 50s, 60s, 70s, just great collection, as well as some sets. So it really encompasses everything we're about, I think, from other books, everything from Elizabeth Wilkerson cast, to I'm sure there's a Bible in here, to the Bhagavad Gita, Kebra Nagas. So it's really reflection of kind of who we are individually and as a couple. Now, if you look over in the lounge area, this, I think we spent a lot of time going to antique shops and, on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, or I think it's Cherish and other sites. And there's a local antique shop called Wishbone Reserve here in Baltimore. And when we saw this Killam rug here, we just fell in love with it. One, we needed a rug that was really going to frame the majority of this room. We wanted something that would really complement the colors, and it was perfect. When we saw it, we knew it, and it just really fell in place rather well. I have to point this out. This is bronze casting, and Nelle was a arts major, and so this was a piece that she has created when she was at Ripon College in Wisconsin. And this is actually a piece from a student at MICA where Nelle worked as an events planner. So it's just a fun space. So, and this is really cool. So, we moved a lot, and I think this was 3 homes ago. We moved into a beautiful condo in Baltimore, and we were about to throw away just like what appeared to be a stack of papers. And I don't know why I took time to really just kind of flip through it. But we came across old sheet music, and it was actually, Bing Crosby's sheet music that was actually signed by some really kind of interesting folks from his past. And so we have this pretty big collection. We've tried to do a little research to kind of find out who are the signatures here, but it's, again, a really kind of fun piece that we had an opportunity to kind of hold on to. It's always nice to have pictures of family in your home. We opted to, we do have some amazing portraits and old photographs, but our immediate family, grandparents, godchildren, siblings are all kind of captured here. So this is a kind of nice, just kind of homage to family. It's on our wedding day in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And this is, we just found this recently. Whoops. And that's of my mother with her dogs. And this was in New Jersey.
Eric did an amazing job talking about the living room. I just want to point out one other artist. This is another one of my students from MICA, and this was sold at Art Walk. People always think it's like an amoeba, but I actually gave her these beads, and she made this beautiful, beautiful beaded work. And she was an apprentice of Joyce Scott, who is an incredible artist here in Baltimore. And then I can't let you pass this wall without talking about the baby silver. We just helped Mom downsize. And if you want to come really close, this is my baby cup as a child. And it was tarnished beyond recognition. So that's my maiden name. And we found all of these wonderful trinkets. And then I collect antique baby rattles. This is a merman. This is the teething side, and this is an actual whistle. Little sterling silver bells. Isn't that darling? So when we have our little godsons come over, it's really fun, and we can't wait as the kids get bigger, but this is a nice little short spot. And then it's kind of neat. When we bought this house, it was very white. Everything was painted white. It was very gallery-like. Our friends had these incredible museum quality lights. They had an incredible textile collection. And we bonded over our love of art, which was really neat. And so they had this blue light, Eric, is that right? It was sort of like the type of bulb so that it wouldn't show up orange. The reds would really come out blue. So there were pin-spotted art on the walls, which was really neat. But of course, we wanted to make it our own. So we painted the vinyl library this navy blue. And then we wanted to delineate this giant space and make this the dining room. Their television was over here, but again, classic 80s with the skylight. I said, my gosh, this would be the perfect place for a dinner table. The dining room used to be in the main room that you walk in, but I knew immediately this should be the dining room. And Eric talked about the vintage rug from Wishbone Reserve in Baltimore. We also found these vintage lights and had them installed over the table to make this space feel like a dining room. And I think it really works. And lunches here, you're come at the perfect time because the light is so beautiful. But this skylight, peak 80s, 1989 edition here. But we just love it so much. The other thing that we inherited from my mom when she downsized was this incredible sideboard. You'll see later in the living room, this is my great-grandmother's piece, and it was custom made for her. And I'll show you on the back a detail that I really want you to see. If you could come to the back. It says on the back, made for Mrs. George Taylor, 1930, by Deneau, from Deneau. So this was custom made in Memphis, Tennessee for my great-grandmother in the height of the Depression. They were, I'm telling you, they were bargain hunters. They had to have been. It's really funny. They really supported people and artists, which leads me perfectly to this beautiful painting. Working at MICA, I just had the most incredible experience working with artists and having artists work in my office. But we've befriended this local artist, Katie Pumphrey, and she has let us loan. This is on loan from Katie. She needed space in her studio. I said, well, we've got a giant wall that's just waiting for a giant piece. So this is called Fresh Squeezed. Katie Pumphrey is the artist that just did a 24-mile swim in the Baltimore Inner Harbor from the Baltimore Bay Bridge to the Inner Harbor. And I was there waiting for her, whistling as loudly as I could. It was incredible. So I think I come by that befriending artists naturally from my great-grandmother who had this custom piece done. But again, this buffet is set up so that we can have friends' lunches. I've actually set this up for, if you want to come closer here, my book club is coming. I have another artist friend. If you want to go tight, I have to show you. I had this artist custom make these place cards. We are reading the book Horse by Geraldine Brooks. And the artist was so specific that she even made the white socks on this famous horse. When I was in high school, graduation, my first little heron, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. When I graduated from high school, my great aunt gave me this, and it started my obsession with heron. So people know that I love heron. I love the heron bunnies. And one of my friends, when I was sort of in a rough patch, said, "You're a unicorn," and gave me this beautiful unicorn. We got them for our wedding. There's an amazing vintage store, antique store called the Turnover Shop. There's some times where I can't pass up a great deal. So this was kind of a splurge recently, which was really fun. And yeah, they're just some really incredible stories. My aunt knew how much I loved Rothschild bird, Lady Rothschild bird. This is a sweet story about Lady Rothschild was in her garden and lost her necklace, and then went to find that the birds had put her necklace in the garden. So this is a really famous pattern from heron, and I love the little pieces that always have the necklace inside. Lady Rothschild bird. And I freaked out with my aunt, and she said, "Well, you love it so much, I want you to just take it." So she gave us that for our wedding, which my mother was horrified that I said yes, but it was such a nice gift, I couldn't pass it up. I come from a long line of artists. My grandmother on my dad's side was an artist. My aunt, who I've always called an aunt, but she's a cousin, my cousin Harriet did this painting for my grandmother. When my grandmother passed away, I said, "Please, please, please let me have it." Her water lily is incredible. And then she did a painting of me as a child upstairs, which was just the most incredible gift that she gave everybody in the family. It was so incredible. But yeah, it's kind of neat. There's a long line of artists on both sides of the family, which I'm very lucky. Oh, and then this is a fun one. Eric and I, in our adventure going to New Orleans, this was the first, the first high rise in New Orleans, and this is literally this little artist in Jackson Square. We've never had it framed. It's just so cute and so, I don't know, I just love it. And it reminds us of that wonderful first trip to New Orleans together. We've jokingly said that we should have a Wishbone Reserve pop-up here because a lot of the pieces, this cabinet is from Wishbone, the lights are from Wishbone, the rug is from Wishbone, and that étagère is also from Wishbone. And this is another one of my collection. This is really kind of funny. I have a china problem. We have an old house problem and a china problem. My grandmother, oh yeah, I'm glad I brought this. This reminded me of something. This is my grandmother's pattern that when she passed away, all of the plates were sent to some, I think they gave them away to it. I'm not sure how it happened, but I was so sad that I didn't get my grandmother's china that I went and found it somewhere else, and it was the most affordable set. This was another COVID purchase. And if you want to follow me over here, during COVID, if you're an event planner and you haven't had a party in a long time, you're kind of jonesing for a party. So one of the plates from that set broke. And there's another amazing artist in Baltimore called The Broken Plate. And I was sitting in the hospital recovering from appendicitis thinking, I'm dying to have a party. It was the Queen's Jubilee. And Juliet, I commissioned her to make these napkin rings out of my grandmother's china. And again, Eric will show you in the kitchen. We love Basquiat, and I kind of wanted to have that punk element. It's so feminine. It's like the pink, pink, pink roses. And I wanted this sort of Basquiat crown to represent that edginess of the punk vibe in London with the Queen's Jubilee. So I had a wonderful luncheon. It was also the year I turned 50. But yeah, this is another incredible collection of our napkin rings. This goes with our silver service. We have a partridge obsession. partridge in a pear tree. And then I will set these out for my book club. We have a fox in the neighborhood that keeps visiting us.
The room that we're in right now, this sunroom, is definitely, my favorite. Probably we're spending the most amount of time here. I mean, whether it's coming and turning on the news over a cup of coffee, whether it's, families coming over, we'll end up, watching movies here. Of course, when we have the dinners, and Nelle does an amazing job setting up the tablescape and really creating really memorable moments for our families. And, you can also look outside, right? You can see the water, from this room. I can access, the entire patio. And it's just great. This is where I Netflix binge, this is where I fall asleep sometimes. It's just a really great, comfortable place to be.
Okay, now we're gonna go into our living room. We are not afraid of color. When we were looking to change this room, again, I said that most of the house was white. We wanted it to feel like our home, and this blue was so happy in the dark, in the light, and it just, people come in and say, oh my gosh, you've got to tell me the color. And I could probably talk about all of the paintings, all of the artwork, but I really want to talk to you about this incredible heirloom piece that was in my grandmother's home when I was little. And when my grandmother passed away, my mom said, did Mother ever tell you she wanted you to have something? I said, yeah, she wants me to have Grandmother Taylor because I was named for her. So this is my great-grandmother, Nelle Taylor, and it's so funny because we have the same hairline. People think we kind of look alike. This was painted in 1935, again, in the middle of the Depression, by, if you want to take a very close look at this incredible signature, this is by an artist called Charles Frederick Nagel. He is in the Smithsonian Museum. I believe he's at the American Art Museum. He was a prolific painter. He was 85 years old when he painted this. So being friends with Amy Sherald and thinking about the National Portrait Gallery and her connection there, and I went to school at American for a semester in the arts program, and having the understanding of provenance and history and art history, to see that this artist was in the Smithsonian, it was such an exciting revelation. My great-grandparents started a paper company in Memphis, Tennessee, where my family's from. And I went to visit my uncle, and I said, well, where's grandfather? And he said, he's in the garage. I said, Uncle Chip, we have to get grandfather out of the crate in the garage. And I told him about this famous artist, and we literally uncrated him and hung him in the dining room that day. Nobody knew that this artist was famous. So it was a really cool experience. And we've had her restored, but when they were looking, they started taking the paint off, and they said, we actually think this dress might have been lavender. I said, don't do any more. I want it just the way it is. But it's very interesting if you see the detail. The artist that was restoring it, I said, oh my gosh, I've lived with it this way for so long. If it all of a sudden became a lavender dress, I don't know what I would do. So this is a very special, special piece. And again, so much of this room was inherited, and a lot of the brown furniture, the mahogany, was in my mom's house and something I'd always wanted. When we downsized, Mom is now in a retirement home, and we were sort of talking about the things that we wanted from the home. And I said, Mama, I have to have the lyre table because I was an AKO at Ripon College, and this beautiful lyre table, this library table, is very special to me. I'll never forget the president of our sorority. Her mother found her these lyre bookends, and it's just something that I'm still very close with my sorority sisters, so it's really a neat piece to have. And again, this room doubles as my office. I have a teeny tiny little nook office upstairs, but if I need to spread out, this is sort of where that happens. We have the ability to have our buffets if we wanted to start with cocktails in here and then go down into the dining room table. This is a great place to do that on these 2 buffets. This is our first house in Dickeyville. When we bought the home 10 houses down, this is called the Gingerbread House. This is the one from 1809, and we believe it was on Fort McHenry and was moved to Dickeyville, and it became the infirmary of the Dickeyville village. We had just moved 2 years before, so it was sort of a crazy move. So my darling Eric had this painting custom made for us. This is a very, very special piece. And if you know anything about history, which is, again, I'm a history nerd, I'm the child of a history professor, you know that the War of 1812 was in Washington, D.C. There's some really cool history there from our family. Dolly Madison took the picture of George Washington off of the wall as the White House was burning and brought it to the Octagon House. And we are related to the Talos from the Octagon House. And so this is why I know the history of the War of 1812 a little bit more than your normal person. But knowing that the War of 1812 was in Washington, D.C., if you know anything about D.C., you know that D.C. was a swamp. And so Wes, in the history of painting this, made the men in the swamp. This painting is called Uniform Choice. And as you can see, they are black men in the War of 1812 that would not have had a uniform choice. So he elevated these soldiers in these beautiful uniforms. And it's so powerful. And we had it framed here in Washington, and it hung proudly in our house for 2 years when we lived down the street, but we absolutely adore it. Isn't that an incredible painting? We've sort of jokingly called this like the ladies' lounge because it's the Nelles. So this is Nell Bond. This is my other maternal grandmother, who I'm named for 3 Nels. So this is Bidey, or Nell Bond. This is my mother's grandmother, my great-grandmother. And then Grandmother Talo is my mother's father's mother. So both of my mom's grandmothers are here. And I jokingly told Eric I also have my grandmother, but she's in a crate in the basement because I'm like, we don't need any more white women portraits in this room. I think we got enough. And then obviously we've got Eric's family here as well. He's going to tell you about his great uncle, who we have a portrait of upstairs, but this is kind of a cool picture. And he won a Purple Heart, and we have his Purple Heart displayed down here as well. But one of my most favorite things is the story of my own grandmother, my father's mother, who was a brave entrepreneur. You'll see my grandmother and a very famous person with her. That is Julia Child in the middle, and then Julia's sister Dort, or Dorothy, and my precious grandmother, Mary Frances Averett. And Francie, as we all called her, started 40 Carats in Memphis, Tennessee. She ran a cooking school in the middle of, probably the middle of the 70s, right as Julia Child was writing The Art of French Cooking. My grandmother got to meet Julia Child multiple times. Being a member of the Cherry Bomb Squad is what we call ourselves, I got to meet Dory Greenspan. So Dory has pride of place with Julia. This is kind of a neat book. I collect all these vintage books. But this was actually the French chef cookbook that went with the television program that Julia Child was on PBS, which as a child I watched obsessively when I was younger, and I called her Junior Child. Instead of watching Sesame Street, which I did watch Sesame Street, I stuck around for Junior Child, and I was obsessed. So that love of cooking also started as a child. And so this is sort of an honor to my grandmother and 40 Carats, which is a really, really special part of our history. Eric talked about his first big purchase when we were in the Rappahannock, and he found the Jim Thompson elephant. I was at the Easton Art Fair. I was far too young to purchase this portrait, or not portrait, but to purchase this painting. but I fell in love with it immediately. I love Edward Hopper. I was an art history minor with a fine arts major, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this looks exactly like an Edward Hopper with that solitary guy looking sad. We met the artist, I bought the painting, and he said, oh, this is in Easton, so you can drive down the street. So if I took this off the wall, my girlfriend Mary Margaret and I went and took the picture of the street of this actual place. So it's an actual physical place in Easton, Maryland on the Eastern Shore, which is a really special, special place. This is Freddie the fox. Freddie is a Wisconsin fox. We have fox in our yard, and foxes are really just my spirit animal, and I just adore them. And then I want to show you Eric's grandfather. This is an incredible story, and it's awarded annually for arithmetic. He's the only black child in this, but we were talking about it. We think he was probably in 8th grade or maybe a freshman. One woman in the picture. It's so special. It's probably in 1915, 1920. And then my mom graciously gave this miniature to me before she moved out of her house. And this is one of my most prized possessions. I absolutely love it. This is Robert Taylor, maybe like an 8th great grandfather. And if you know anything about this, this is your Antique Roadshow girl coming out. This was, when he passed away, this is what his wife would have worn, and that is his hair. It's plaited, as they call it. So it's like that braided hair and that beautiful monogram, that RT. So this has a significance because you go to these historic houses. My parents were both art people or history people, so they drag us to every historic home from here to Memphis, Tennessee, from here to Atlanta. And when I was younger, I was like, oh, not another house. But it was one of these things, you'd see these miniatures, all these, I think they call them memoriams. Okay, now we're joining Eric in the kitchen, who's going to tell us a little bit about these Basquiat-inspired skateboards.
Yeah, so this is a triptych that we purchased from the Barnes Museum. We have a really great friend that is on their leadership team, and during one visit, we've been up there a couple of times. This caught my eye. Love Basquiat, but I've also worked in nonprofits for years, and so the organization that produces these is called the Skate Room. They advocate for recreation for youth, and they partner with the estates of artists, and they're able to license some of their images from some of their paintings. So this is a really fun triptych that we put in here.
Yeah, I love, and again, there's so much traditional stuff in our house that the edginess of the art kind of tones down the sterling silver and these antique quilts. This is in another Victorian quilt. I feel like Little Women, it's like you can see the silk and the things. It's actually, the silk is shattered. It's so old, but we love it so much. We almost hung it on the wall. The velvet, everything about it is just, it's so graphic. It's timeless. But we couldn't hang it on the wall because they said it was just too fragile. And then we just have this fun bar set up for parties. This is sort of an easy thing, help yourself kind of thing. And using, again, my grandmother's vintage silver. She won the Junior League Garden Club in Memphis in 1954. That's my grandmother, Nancy Taylor. And then I couldn't get rid of Mom's chickens. All of my Junior League cookbooks are here. I was in the Junior League of Washington when I lived in DC for a long time, so that was very fun. I'm in cookbook clubs, I'm in book clubs, and then we have Eric's mother here every Sunday for dinner, and it was her birthday yesterday, actually, so she got her little special happy birthday to you. This is vintage M.H. Hadley from Kentucky. I personally love this pattern. So yeah, we have breakfast in here. This is a very special, and this is a giant kitchen. Our friends that lived here would invite us and we'd have dinner. And again, we've changed it around a little bit, but we love it.
Yeah, it's probably the one room that we have done the least to. It's really been, obviously adding books, some art on the wall, adding a tulip table here. We found, as far as like design in kitchens, if you change the countertop, get a new faucet, that begins to kind of make it yours. In the future, we might do something larger, but we just felt, let's just add a couple of additions in some of our pieces that kind of bring it to life for us.
Right. So we did change the countertops. Eric's right. We changed. It was a very, very mid-century modern white laminate. And again, we beat the heck out of our countertops. So that's a tip that we've done in most of our houses, and put in this fabulous, fabulous sink. And then it's just wonderful to be in Dickeyville and wash the dishes and see everything outside, the neighborhood passing by. And now we really should go to the sun porch, because the screened-in porch is the most. I think that actually is one of my favorite rooms, next to the guest room upstairs.
One of my friends, actually one of our friends' framed it best. Said,
sweet.
Being around Nelle is like being around someone that's having fun for the first time every time. So you can imagine the boundless energy. So sometimes it's hard to keep up with, but really brings a lot of joy to our family, to our friends. We love to entertain, and she really brings just, that hospitality. I mean, it's shocking that she's worked in hospitality her career, but I would say that's kind of, what I really admire about her.
I admire so much about Eric that it's like hard to list, but he is the yin to my yang. My high energy, Eric sort of calms me down in the moment of getting ready for a party, getting ready for whatever it is. He is the center of the storm, and has this calmness around him no matter what. The screened-in porch is probably one of the places we live the most, from the fall all through the winter. During COVID, this was the absolute best respite. Our friends would come over. There's probably too many tables, but we had people come out for dinner. And because it's screened in, it was just this wonderful, spacious place to be with friends during COVID. Another incredible collection that we have, I admitted that I'm a bird nerd. This is my grandmother Nancy's bird collection. And she befriended the artist in Pickwick, which is a lake community right outside of Memphis. And the artist's name was Neva Boyd. And when we were moving Mom's stuff, this was the one that I put the highest insurance value on, because I did not want to lose any of these. They're so precious to me. They're so precious to my mom. I think we lost one petal of one flower, but it's a really, really special. And they are hand carved, hand painted. They're so mid-century mod. When I shared with some friends, they said, oh my gosh, my uncle has the same kind of hand painted birds. So yeah, Neva Boyd. I looked her up online. I even found one on eBay, this brown thrasher, and it had her name and the type of bird it was. You can tell it's a teeny bit different. This brown thrasher is actually a lot bigger than some of these smaller guys, the chickadees, the cedar waxwings, the flickers, which all come to our yard, which is pretty amazing. And if you look at the bird bath right here, this is Bird Nerd Central. We're going to actually go down into the garden. We're going to show you what the previous owners did so that we don't have to water. We have 3 types of magnolia trees on the property as well, and the birds go nuts for their beautiful, beautiful seeds. And last week I saw the red fox. We think he might live in our hill. All of the ferns come back every single year. We have Johnny jump ups over here. We had to move the hydrangea because the deer are insane and very hungry. And so you can see they've like mowed down the bottom, but I'm going to ask Eric to get some of the taller, this is an oak leaf hydrangea, which will go perfect in my buffet arrangement on the sideboard. Do you want to get one of the taller ones, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
Cool.
Just two of those.
Please, here.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, babe. And that's it. 2 giant stalks, and that'll make my buffet arrangement. It's pretty great. But now we want to show you the Gwynns Falls River. So this is our backyard that backs up to the Gwynns Falls River and is connected to a 700-acre park. Actually, it might be 1,100 acres. You can see these ruins from, this was a mill village. You can see the people have started building these little rock formations. But this is our backyard, but this is actually a public park. So we don't have to cut the lawn, which is kind of nice. And we have fox and geese and owls were nesting in our backyard. Last year we had 2 baby owlets that the neighborhood freaked out about. It was so incredible. And then again, all of the yard is local, native, sustainable plants that are in the garden. So it all comes back. They all flower at different times. The friends that we bought the house from were just so talented when it came to this yard. We thought it was going to be a little bit easier to maintain. There are still weeds to be picked, but you can see it's a bird haven. We do not have bird feeders anywhere because of the seeds that are produced by the grasses, the seeds that are produced by the flowers, and it's a smorgasbord for the birdies. We have a couple woodchucks that live in the hill, which are a real terror to the neighborhood.
Have there been any design wars as we've tackled our homes? Every single home, every single room, we come together. But yeah, I mean, I am like, in my former design life, I was more minimal. I love Zen gardens, Japanese architecture. And for the sake of the marriage, I was able to forgo. There will be a Zen cabin in maybe the mountains of West Virginia at some point that'll be fully my design. Remain. But yeah, it's part of life, right? Like you work together. It's our home, and you don't have to do things right away. I think when you look around our home, there's been pieces that we've had like a design sprint. We'll wake up one weekend, be like, oh, let's just do something different with this room, and we'll just run at it. Then other things have just kind of happened over time, and it just works. Mm-hmm. We figure it out. There's probably a design, war just last week, but we get through it.
Which one? Let's point that out. I feel like that's not, the design war is really not, but that is really funny because Eric, his apartment was so zen and so cool, and like it is, we are maximalists to the limit here.
I've adjusted to colors, pastels, as you can see here.
You were always a colorful, creative person. That's funny. I think our decor style is definitely maximalist, very traditional with a modern sort of edge. We have an incredible art collection that reflects friends of ours, students of mine. I was at MICA for 7 years, so I had some incredible experiences working with students. And we also are big vintage, antique, the hunt for the perfect rug, the perfect lights to make a room feel welcome without it feeling too overly designed. Eric is the king at finding a Facebook Marketplace score and driving. He's like, what did you say? It's like,
yeah, between have a good Subaru or be willing to rent a U-Haul.
A box truck. We should just own a box truck. Like the amount of Facebook Marketplace finds we found, and our friends are now like, where did you find that? How do you guys find this incredible stuff? We've been very lucky on both sides. We've inherited some beautiful antiques from our family, both sides of the family. And, you know, using that brown furniture to our advantage. I've always loved the beautiful inlaid mahogany, but again, we don't want it to be so traditional that it's fussy. So I think we've done a good job of balancing that out with our, you know, funky art collection, you know, and finding a $10, you know, hutch from Home Goods that just happens to fit with the whole space. Okay, I really want to show you our Walloon room, which is our powder room that, again, great-grandmother Talo painted both paintings in this room. So this was a painting of the cottage at Walloon Lake that my great-grandparents built in Michigan. Again, they were from Memphis, but when my mom and dad were looking for my dad to go to get his master's, he went to Michigan State, and Mom said, well, of course we can go to Michigan. We love Michigan. It's Walloon Lake. So this was the pink house, and this is the foot. And you can see it's super mid-century. It's very untrained, but the fact that my great-grandmother did this is so special. And then all these little details. This is an Italian toll. I collect Italian toll. These are these metal flowers. And if you want to look at the ceiling, I found this incredible chandelier from the turnover shop here in Baltimore. And my grandmother had one of these in her kitchen. And another fun trick we did was we painted the ceiling pink and matched the table here and the powder trash bin. We stole this wallpaper from the last house down the street because we loved it so much. And then I took the entire collection of my mom's silhouettes from her home and just think it's such a fun detail to have in this very tiny little room.
So welcome to our office. This actually was our guest room, and we were both working remote. My office was in what is now a small bedroom, and this it worked when we thought about it. There's a lot more space. We have the fireplace, and so this is where we work. You know, we have some pictures, some art. I mean, this is actually from our wedding. This is actually our wedding invitations. Nell's really into paper, and so we spent a lot of time thinking about from the font, you know, the script, as well as the quality paper for our invitations. And so we framed it here, which is really nice. This is a nice touch. So you see the horse-drawn carriage. So for our honeymoon, we got married in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we honeymooned up on Mackinac Island. And through some connections, we knew the Musser family. The Mussers had been the owners of the Grand Hotel. And when we were planning for our honeymoon, we, reached out to someone who worked with the Mussers, and we spent a couple of days at the Grand Hotel, which was nice, just as is. The second day we were there, we got a phone call, and the Mussers had arranged for Nelle and I to go on a tour of Mackinac Island in an English carriage from the 1800s, that all the presidents that have visited Mackinac Island and Grand Hotel had an opportunity to take a ride in as well. So that was pretty cool. I do want to point out this painting. This is actually, there is a photograph downstairs, I think Nell may have shown you, of my great uncle, as well as great aunts and another great uncle. So he kind of served in World War II. He was based in Italy. And this painting was actually a DC painter that was probably painted in probably in maybe around the 40s or 50s. But it was installed in the Anacostia Community Museum in Washington, D.C., which is really about civil rights, cultural, and vibrancy of the Anacostia African-American community. And so this was in my mom's house, and now it's here, but it's nice having this in the office. And so over here, this is a picture of Nelle's mom. And then if you look down, that's a picture of Nelle in the same dress, which is pretty cool.
And this is the painting that my aunt did of me as a child, the artist, my cousin Harriet. This is me when I was little. And then you might also know that we're OG Homeworthy fans. And Allie and I were talking, Ashley, before, and she said I should definitely show this.
I also want to point out something, I guess, it's very serendipitous. This is an ottoman that we brought from the home down the street. But on the walls in that same fabric are curtains that we also brought from the old home, and they fit perfectly. So, you can imagine how we felt being able to take some of the design aesthetic that we liked at our old home and kind of weave it into this new one. So it's been just really, really fun to get work done here. It feels very light and airy, so we enjoy it. And you can also you can see the water from here as well. So in between emails, and I could, get a little bit of zen and relaxation being able to see the water from my desk.
The other cool part about the drapes and this ottoman, we are, again, big thrifters. We love to salvage anything as much as we can. I think we bought 12 yards of fabric for like $120 and have had all of the curtains made. We had a runner, a skirt made for the guest bed when the guest bedroom was here. It's like you really arrive if you can afford a runner around your tall queen bed. But yeah, Eric's point is it's pretty incredible. And my tiny little, this is my craft closet. I love working in this space, which is the smallest room in the house. When I started my business, I was named for 3 Nelles: Nelle Bond, Nelle Taylor, and my great aunt Nellie Taylor Ross. Nellie Taylor Ross was the first woman governor of the United States. And I hang this in my office to remind myself of how brave this woman was. Anytime I get a little freaked out, like, what am I doing? How have I done this? She blazed this trail. So every person in our family is so proud to be related to this woman who lost her husband to appendicitis and was the first woman governor in 1924. So that's kind of a fun little detail. But another fun story is that Homeworthy, Allison Kenworthy, is a dear family friend. I was her youth minister when she was 14 years old. I'm going to show you in the other room some pilgrimage details. But I was an artist, and I would take my travel journal. This is Holy Island. We went on a pilgrimage to Mexico. Allison might remember the mountains outside of our camp. And this was San Juan Capistrano. We did a pilgrimage down in Mexico and built a house for a homeless family. And then, again, I'm the youth minister that cusses. This is my paper porn collection. As an event planner, I love, as Eric said, I love the details of the paper. I'm glad he pointed out the thing about the little carriage and how lucky we were that we got the carriage ride. But this is all of Allison and Michael's details from their wedding, from their baby Grace's announcement, the bridesmaids luncheon at the Georgetown Club, their New York Times. So every single friend of mine that sends me an invite, I then keep the wedding invite, the thank you note, and then everyone thinks I have a great memory. I don't have a great memory. I just reread the cards and remember from that standpoint. So it's a really fun thing. And Allison and Michael's wedding invitation and their menu cards were designed by her friend Inslee. Somewhere in here, look at this incredible thing. I can't put my hand on it right now, but Inslee makes these incredible calendars. So I've collected these Inslee calendars, and I have a couple gifts that are ready to go. But this is just really inspiration for Stonehill hospitality. If I kind of get in a rut, it is a little hoardy, I admit. But my friends on their birthday, they can't believe that I can sit here and pull out the wedding invitation and the thank you note. My friend Kirsty got me into this a million years ago. I just went to a friend's birthday party at the Selgrave Club last week, and this was literally last week, and it was just such a sweet memory. And this was her wedding invitation from 1,000 years ago. So that's kind of a fun detail. Now I think we should show you my favorite room, the guest room. My love of collecting came from my mother. My mom and dad are both historians, and to the point where Eric and I were at my cousin's wedding in Jamaica, and we got the word that we had gotten tickets to Antique Roadshow. My mom was so excited to go to Antiques Roadshow in Michigan that she had every member of the family sign up so that she would get tickets. I'm very, very lucky. Eric and I are in Jamaica, and we got the email, and I called Mom immediately. And every time I talk to my mom on the phone, she's watching Antiques Roadshow. So I was very interested. We also went to thrift stores, antique stores. My mother is Southern, and so she grew up with this very, very traditional aesthetic and respected it, but also sort of was a little bit rebellious. So it was very interesting growing up in that, respect of history, but also having sort of an edge to it. So Mom inherited a lot of the furniture that was passed down. I can't wait to show you some of those pieces. But my love of collecting really came from my mom, and probably inherited from my grandmother, my mother's mother. So Eric said, when we sort of needed the itch to scratch, we didn't want to move, I said, let's make this big room the office, and we made this the guest room. So this just turned out to be, it's very tight, but it's cozy. And I think when you're sleeping away from home, there's something about having a tighter space that makes it feel very comfortable. So we moved the cannonball bed. This is something that's been in our family forever and ever. My grandmother, Nell Bond, nicknamed Bidey, did this quilt. This is these ancient quilts are so incredible. And then one of my favorite things is Eric and I worked in this 5-star hotel in Washington, D.C., so we kind of go nuts when it comes to the amenities. And Eric said we went to Europe for our friend Amy's opening in London, and then popped over to Paris, and I bought these beautiful, lipstick at the Hermes store in Paris, and I'm like, I can't throw away this box, it's beautiful. And it goes with my, Amari collection, so I used it to put the Q-tips in here. So I just thought that was sort of a fun little trick to save your favorite little boxes. We love our orange and brown boxes. And then there's slippers in here and things like that. And then, again, going through my mom's stuff, when we were going through her house, I'm like, this is called a sugar scuttle. So whoever's coming to visit, Katie was here last, so my dear friend Katie. So I put the chocolate-covered espresso beans in the scuttle. And I don't know if you know the story about a scuttle, but a scuttle is the actual scoop that was on a boat. It's called a scuttlebutt. Or a scuttlebutt is the gossip that they were talking about. Well, the scuttle was the scoop. So that was like the original water cooler. So a scuttlebutt is the gossip that was talked about around the water cooler, which is kind of a fun. So all these weird little historic, antique things, they have stories that are attached behind them. So just keep digging into that. It's very fun. This is a biscuit tin. which is so Southern. Most people have cheese biscuits in the South. But we've got like Pedialyte if our friends have like tied one on a little bit too hard at one of our parties. And then, you know, a little nuts, things like that, just to make your guests feel very, very taken care of. And more blankets and towels. This is insane, but these are all of the collection that my mom had of her trousseau when she got married to my dad. Look, the tags are still on them. So anybody that has a T in their name still gets these beautiful, beautiful napkins and handkerchiefs as a gift. I grew up loving to host, and even as a child, my family had parties all the time. I come from a long line of party planners, basically. I also belong to the Church of Paying Attention, the Mary Oliver parishioners, where if you are in a space, pay attention to the birds, pay attention to the energy in the room, and not necessarily put out your fanciest thing, but think about the guest that's coming and make them feel really special. I think that's what hospitality is all about. It's making somebody, it's sort of kindness accelerated. Make it comfortable for your guests, and those little details, you know, very Ina Garten, like don't be so stressed out at your party that you can't enjoy it yourself. Have a very simple menu. You know, peanut butter and jelly in the rain is more fun than, you know, filet mignon sitting uptight at your dinner table. I'm going to take you to our bedroom now. Before we head into the bedroom, I wanted to show you my mother's Kutani and Amari collection. This is something, again, that I can't believe she parted with it before she moved out of her house. But she was ready to get smaller. And these foo dogs are one of my favorite. Foo dogs should always be set up in pairs. They are to, protect you from evil spirits. So the fact that it's at the top of the stairs moves the evil spirit right back down, which is kind of a fun thing. We also have foo dogs on our lamps that are right outside of the door. I don't know if I really believe in any of that stuff, but I just think it's really neat. This is a beautiful painting that my mother-in-law also did. So we have all of these artists in our family, and it's really pretty special that we've got them all over our home. And now we're going to go into the bedroom and see a little bit more. Okay, welcome to our bedroom. Again, this was the older part of the house. And when we came to visit, we couldn't get over how big this room was. And our friend had built all these built-ins. And so we actually took one of the only things we did to this house was take the built-ins out. And it's just turned out to be great. We obviously have a thing for blue. We have a blue living room, a blue bedroom, and a blue guest room. This one just feels sort of this cozy French blue that we love. Lots of vintage finds here. Another turnover shop. We just brought this big blue chair back from my mom. We love zebras. I have a zebra mask over on the other side. This was my grandfather's bedroom set. This is it's so old it has ivory. I don't even think you can sell anything with ivory in it anymore, but it's been in the family for a million years. And just to modern it up, I found these incredible poles that I just thought they were so funny. And then again, another cousin in my family is an artist, my sweet cousin. Her first name is Taylo from our family. Her grandmother Taylo in the big painting, she was both of our great grandmothers. So she's my sister cousin, and it's wonderful. We have a painting of hers in the kitchen as well. And then this is sort of my pilgrimage corner. I sort of alluded to the fact that I was Allison's youth minister and brought her on a pilgrimage to England, one of our first pilgrimages from Christ Church in Georgetown. And a lot of the details in this little, I guess it's an old display case, this beautiful mahogany. display case has a lot of memories, from the Episcopal prayer beads to thumb prayer beads. One of the first collections I ever bought from the Paris flea was that crucifix. And then there are Kesey pennies from Gallery Africa in DuPont Circle, which was another first thing. And then I've got this haven of bunnies. My little blue bunny collection is one of my faves. And this precious guy is praying. My sweet friend Katie just gave me the prayer bunny, which is so precious. So this is sort of a nod to the pilgrimage. This is a swallow from San Juan Capistrano, the painting I just showed you. That was when we went to Mexico. So this is a pretty special place. The other neat thing is that Eric actually did this brass rubbing when he was traveling. So that's a really special thing, that Eric had a brass rubbing. And we have 2 other brass rubbings in this room. Again, I almost feel like she's like the famous great-grandmother, Grandmother Talo. We call them the Thai ladies, but this was Siam when she went to Siam back in the day. So this is a brass rubbing from Thailand. And again, Eric lived in Thailand, so it's so special that my family had this connection. And then this monk is so special. I grew up on a street where our Episcopal vicar lived on the same street, 2 houses down. I was a cradle Episcopalian, and Father Poyser did this brass rubbing. So this room is there's not a book in the space. It is a resting place, a prayerful place. My grandmother did this beautiful needlepoint. I don't think it's Daughters of the King, but it's just such a special, special needlepoint that she had in her home. And then our zebras, this was a wedding present for my mom and my stepfather, and we've kept it intact somehow, this beautiful zebra. And then finally, this giant piece and the bed. The bed was also from Wishbone Reserve, our favorite vintage shop down in Baltimore. This giant piece, this unbelievable bamboo piece, I'm in the thrift with the Makerista Club. She's been on Homeworthy. Gwen's amazing. When you are a member of the thrift with the Makerista Club, you get to be in a private Facebook group that shows you what's coming up for sale in the neighborhood. And again, Eric and his box truck joke, he immediately, I cannot believe we found this piece. And I can't even tell you the price because it was ridiculously affordable. I don't want people to be mad. It was so incredible. But this, it's an old house with 2 teeny tiny closets. Eric is 6'4". This is all Eric's side, so it's pretty neat. And then again, a vintage trunk that was in my grandmother's house forever and ever. It feels like all of those vintage quilts could have gone in there. And then this sort of bamboo. We like a little chinoiserie here and there. And then finally, our wonderful ML did the pillows. We've had, this is another great trick. If you have really beautiful old fabric, find a seamstress and have them make something special for you. This is an old Laura Ashley fabric that ML had made into this giant bolster pillow. And then I just found this fabric online and asked ML to do the same with this as well.
Home for us is a place to express our creativity, a place to welcome friends and family, a place to rest, a place to just, enjoy the precious moments, of life. I mean, really, we spend a lot of time. I think we both had a past in hospitality. I don't know, maybe we're foodies. We've kind of been there, done that. Like, Nelle is an amazing cook. And if I'm up against the wall, I can burn. So we can spend a lot of time in home and have all of our needs really tended to. And so it's everything for us, I think.
That's right. Home means to me, I agree with Eric, home is a place to rest. We work very, very hard. my job is very physical, and to be here and have this enveloping place, every surface is comfortable. There are different rooms to have places of reflection. I love to read. I love to cook. We have a wonderful kitchen to be able to make these meals to invite people over. We both travel a lot, and there's something about this home specifically, watching the birds, listening to the owls. It's the bird song that welcomes us home too. And I know that sounds super nerdy, but I am like a #1 bird nerd. And to have, to be traveling so many places, and then to have, to recognize the bird song in your own backyard, there's something really special about that. And a cardinal just landed on the bird bath as I'm talking about it. It's amazing.
And I'll say for us home, at least our home, we welcome folks that are also looking to get better at cooking, because we have quite the cookbook selection, which you'll see in many rooms. But it just makes life so special when you can just look to the right, grab some amazing cookbook and find a favorite recipe or try a new one.
Yeah. It's very neat. And what Eric's saying, he can burn on the grill and not burn the food, but burn as in he's really good at cooking.
I hope folks would get that.
When we first started dating, Eric made me the most beautiful meal with carrot ribbons. I'm like, what guy makes carrot ribbons on a first date? It was the cutest thing in the world. But yeah, there's something about, I do have an extensive cookbook collection, and Eat Your Books is this incredible, they actually were just bought. I'm so proud of them. It's turning into an app. I have a lifetime membership to this app, but you say carrots and you put in carrots, it then shows you the 150 recipes you could make in your own cookbooks that use carrots. And so that's another thing. We have a little library. We can, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep in our Eat Your Books, and then pull out the 6 different books that might have a recipe. And there's something very cool about researching the recipe and then thinking, oh, we would really crush that. So, and Eric has actually gotten excited to cook a lot more recently, so it's been really nice.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.